makeup.
So today I'm going to be making a flatbread to go with my chicken curry that I'm making for supper. So you need 3/4 of a cup of milk. And with that, I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of butter. And that is I'm going to heat it up until the butter melts. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to get the flour ready. 2 cups of flour. For this batch, I'm using whole wheat flour, but you can use white flour, of course. And I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Mix that up. I'm going to make a well in the center. Just a sec. Just want to stir this a bit. Okay, so my milk and butter is heated up, so I'm adding it to the flour and mix it up. Once it's mostly mixed, I'm going to turn it out on a floured counter and knead it for a couple minutes to bring it all together. You don't have to really knead it very much. You want it to be a nice soft dough. So like that. Once the dough is pretty much all mixed together, you want to put it in cling wrap, and we're going to let it rest just on the counter for half an hour or longer before we roll it out. But I also have one done with white flour that has already rested. So again, I'm going to cover everything with a bit of flour. This is the one I had made earlier out of white flour. Just because I did the one with whole wheat for myself because I prefer whole wheat flour. So while I'm rolling that out, I'm going to heat up my pan on a medium heat. So with this, you're going to break off balls, or you can divide it, beforehand. But it depends totally on what size of bread you want to make. I never want to make anything too big. So, like the ball that I took was like that size, 2 inches. Press it down. And with your rolling pin, you're going to roll it out. And this is very similar to like pizza dough, that it springs back. So you just have to continue to roll it till it gets to the size that you want. And thickness should be about 1/8 of an inch. You don't want it too thick, but you don't want, if it's too thin, it's still good, but it will be a lot crispier when you cook it. So you won't be able to use it, say if you wanted to use it to roll it up, like naan bread type of thing, or pita bread. It would just be a little bit too crispy. But that's about it when it's rolled. So you want to do that. You can keep your dough in a tea towel while you're rolling everything up, just to keep it that it doesn't dry out too much. So press it down. And of course I washed my hands, removed my rings before I start working with dough, because everything would get stuck in your rings. Once that's done, now we're going to go to the stove and we're going to do our dough. Okay, so I'm ready to fry up the bread. Feels like it's warm enough. So put it into the pan. Just fry these one at a time. So I coated my pan with a tablespoon or so of oil. You have to fry it about 1.5 minutes per side. As it starts to cook, it'll bubble up. Possibly. Maybe not. I'm going to flip it over. And the same, a minute and a half on this side, and then it'll be done. I'm going to cover it with a tea towel while I continue to fry up my breads. So I add the bread to the pan. Cook about a minute and a half per side. And you can see, if you look closely, small bubbles forming as the bread cooks. And flip it over. Minute and a half, and that's your bread ready to eat.